Hey, welcome to Mark's Game Room. This is our initial podcast on scenario design.
Woo, woo,
Woohoo!
woo! Yeah, let's do this.
All right, we got Ben, Matt, and Carl joining us here today, and I'm Mark, your host. And I would say that over the years, guys, I've gotten pretty good and kind of well known maybe for writing good scenarios,
And
right?
you've
Like I
written
don't,
like hundreds by now, right? It's got to
yeah.
be up to the hundreds.
Yeah, a lot. There's a lot of scenario books. I did like colonial campaigns, all kinds of Fireball Forward books. My Fire in the Sea is all about scenarios. Fire in the Sky, there's scenarios all over the place, and I love writing them. Right.
Mhm. But
So
despite having all done all that, now you need our help.
that's right.
They always come crawling to us
Come back.
in his
Well,
darkest hour.
I'm glad you finally decided to use our expertise.
Thank
That's
you.
right.
Yeah.
I feel so wanted.
I'm tapped out, man. I'm tapped out. I got nothing left. Nothing in the tank. Um, but anyways, let's first of all, like I was thinking in how to present this, right? And I started thinking about the current state of scenarios in our hobby.
Mhm.
Like when I started way back in the ancient times, right? There weren't really scenario books.
This would be in
And
the 1940s.
yeah, at least, right?
Yeah.
BC, right? Clausewitz was
Clausewitz. Wow. Clausewitz.
yeah, Mark co-wrote on war.
Yeah, I
So
did. So I
that
got my
should date
start.
him. Yeah.
Wish I
Yes,
was getting,
scenarios in it.
I didn't sign off for royalties, so I'm screwed.
Ah,
I know.
Yeah.
damn.
Um, anyway, so like skirmish campaigns, people might know that name. Those were kind of beginnings, I think, of scenario books. Scott Fisher, and I jumped in with him and started
Mhm.
writing them. Now I feel like there are kind of a fair amount of just scenario books out there for all kinds of things. It's not really unique anymore. Um, and I think, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I kind of feel like there's two kind of scenario routes you can go down. One is there's a book, right?
Mhm.
You get rules. Sometimes there's scenarios in it, but then there'll be a supplement. Here's scenarios, right? The other one is scenarios are created by army lists, right? You build your army and you have the flying shooty army and you against your friend who built his list and he's got the slow crushy army, right? And then the scenario is flying army versus slow crushy army, right? And then you mix it up. So it's not like based on a history or anything. It's really the scenario comes out of your army lists.
It's almost not a scenario at all, right? It just happens to be the army you stick on the table and you try and kill each other, which unfortunately is what a lot of the early
Yeah.
wargaming hobby is, because you go to Games Workshop, you're obsessed with a giant army list of what you're doing, and there's very little thought given to what you're actually going to play on the table other
Right.
than kill the other guy's army.
Well, they'll
And
have like six basic scenarios that you play
Yes.
over and over, but
sure.
you change it by your army list.
That's
Mhm.
it. That
Yeah.
they'll release this glossy, awesome book, and it has all these army lists in it that they are trying to sell you all the models out of. And then in terms of scenarios, they give you the standard six: meeting, engagement, attack,
Yes.
defense in depth, whatever. And you'll
Yeah.
play those over and over again with your flying army, your killy army, what have you.
Now,
Right.
now to be fair, it is really hard in Warhammer for them to build what amounts to a historical scenario book, right? Because they're going to
Well,
be like, it's this chapter of the Space Marines versus the Tyranids, and then if you don't have those two armies, which you have to shell out $400 each for, if you've got like a Nurgling army, you can't play in those, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I'd say I did buy because I love scenarios, right? I bought like a Warhammer 40K scenario campaign book
Okay.
because I was interested, right? And
Mhm.
it was fairly dense, and you could kind of use whatever army you had against the other guy. So instead of
Mhm.
having the six basic scenarios, it had like maybe 12 scenarios that were organized around a theme.
Cool.
So it's kind of like maybe Warhammer Army List Plus, right?
Yeah.
And so that was okay. I mean, at least it gives you a little more flavor in the gum to chew a little while longer.
Sure.
Well, I
You
do
know?
I
recommend if you're a wargamer who has not done a lot of scenarios, if you've been doing those six Warhammer things,
Yeah,
go the
branch
next
out.
step and find some real scenarios for the game. It really spices up wargaming in general.
Well, if I were to kind of pinpoint like a big difference between the kind of DIY historical hobby version of scenarios and a lot of the box game, army list type, is that when you have more narrative scenarios, questions about balance are not really the
Yes.
prime question on your mind, right?
Right.
Like you're trying to tell a specific story, and that might mean that one side's super outnumbered, right? Or the terrain is really uneven, or what have you. So I kind of think that's the point of divergence in the hobby. I'm waving my hands, which makes
Yeah.
for great radio.
That's
Uh,
right. Well, Carl, I mean, you're right on point for tonight. What I'm going to lay out for us to figure out because it's definitely not even. So it's a good point there, right?
All right.
So okay, so what we're going to do tonight, though, right, is we're historical gamers,
Mhm.
and so I would say at least for tonight, we're not going to do an army list, really. Um, we're going to look at creating a scenario based on a historical event, right? Because we're historical gamers, right? And
Okay.
so I think to start, at least we'll say it's going to have miniatures because we're miniatures gamers,
hmm.
and we'll go from there. That could change, but I think that's what we're going to set out. We can do a historical game, historical setting, narrative kind of thing based with historical miniatures, right? And
I am
that's what we
already
want to do.
feeling incredibly constrained.
All right.
Well, yeah.
Mark just doesn't want to let us LARP. I keep asking, and he
Oh
won't
my
let us do it.
God. Oh my God. Good Lord.
If I can sneak a Tyranid in here somehow, I will.
All
We'll
right,
figure
all
it
right.
out.
That's good. It's all wide open. I have like a rule, um,
Well,
especially when I'm writing scenarios or rules, right? Is if someone makes a suggestion, I never just rule it out of hand. You always give it a shot. Like maybe it works, maybe it doesn't.
You have not heard a lot of my suggestions.
Okay. Yeah.
I disagree, Mark. You rule things that I say out of hand all the time.
What, Carl?
And
Quiet. Let's
should.
moving on. I don't know. What do you guys? All right. Um, so things we'll get if you keep listening, things we're going to get to with this topic, which is the Japanese amphibious invasion of Okinawa in 1945. Eventually, we'll talk about scale, victory condition, order of battle, what rules might be appropriate, um, and what the scenario will be called, which is always really a fun. Like, what do you title the damn thing, right? Which is kind of fun at the end. Um,
Oh, okay. Let's back up a sec. So you said it was historical, and then you said the Japanese invaded Okinawa in 1945. Did that
yes.
happen?
So that's what we're going to talk about, right? It did happen. So
Okay.
the first thing that I always look at, or how I come to a scenario, I should say, right, is I'm always inspired by something with history, right? Because for me, if you watch some of the videos, right, wargaming for me is a door that invites me in to learn more about some historical subject I might not know about, right? And if you're going to write a scenario, you need to learn about that event, like who was there, what was the terrain like, what constraints were they under, right? And that's kind of historical research, and I really love that. And so something always inspires me to do it. Um, so Ben, let me just ask you though, when you write scenarios, because you've written space things, you've written dungeon things, like
Yes.
what inspires you? Is it history or is it more like rules or anime or
For
what?
me, it's much more about interesting gameplay situations. So I'm about like what's going to make this a cool and fun game to play. I'm very much
Hmm.
all about the game. As you said, the games I design aren't even really historical in nature.
Right.
I just like having a good time, and I want to make sure the players have a good time too.
Well, that's why it's always great to have your voice when we're designing scenarios because you bring that other kind of aspect too. Right. What about
Mhm.
you, Matt? What do you think about?
So thus far, I've only been designing stuff for small scale skirmish stuff, and it was based on a movie, Seven Samurai.
Uh,
So in that case, I'm coming from kind of both of the worlds we've talked about, which is I really want to try to aim for balance and to have an interesting result, and I'm also looking at trying to replicate what I saw because
right.
some of it is the drama of what I saw in this film that I really like. And you need to have kind of a well balanced game to get there because you
Right.
need to have stakes and one side has to be threatened at all times at least. So I'm trying to balance those two elements, and then I'm adding maybe as a layer onto that some role playing because I want some of the design of the scenario to reflect the limitations that maybe the characters have.
Oh,
So
yeah.
just a little bit of a different way I'm coming at it.
And no one, Carl.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely about like making the scenario a little bit immersive, like having a little bit of story to it
Mm,
where you're, in the heads of the people involved. And maybe that means, creating a kind of strange scenario that's a little off the wall or creating circumstances where you don't have all the information.
yeah, for sure.
I think the more you can get into that sort of like, you know, forcing you to play as though you were in that time period a little bit is really fun
Yeah.
and narratively. And I agree with Matt said a little bit of role play goes a long way. You got the D&D crew here.
All right. Well, I mean, that's cool, right? So we all kind of have slightly different things that draw us into why we pick a topic for a scenario, and that's pretty cool. So I'm going to give a topic here, and we're going to see how y'all react to it and what we kind of come up with a game, right? So again, this is the Japanese amphibious invasion of Okinawa in 1945. It is a historical event.
Uh-huh.
And the craziness, I think, is what attracted me, right? So I'm just going to start off by saying that I got this from a podcast called The Unauthorized History of the Pacific War.
Okay.
It's an excellent podcast. They go through the whole Pacific War, and I was listening to the Okinawa episode,
Mhm.
and I think when I've read about the battle, I kind of maybe saw this in a map or something, but I didn't really dive into it, and they dove into it. And I was like, this is nuts. And as I was listening to them in my mind, I said, how would I make a game out of that? Right. And so that was the inspiration for me. Like it was these guys really teased out this really interesting, maybe hidden or lost episode in World War II. And I thought, wow, making a game about it would really kind of bring it back to knowledge. So that
Okay.
was my inspiration. So I'm going to encourage anyone out there, if you're interested in this, go listen to the unauthorized history of the Pacific War. There's 3 Okinawa scenarios. It's the episodes. It's the last one. It's really great. Okay, so
So I'm not convinced this isn't some insane fever dream. So what allegedly happened
okay,
here?
well, I'm gonna lay it out because when I do a historical scenario, I always zoom out to get the bigger picture, to really have a sense of where's the game. Is it actually a bigger, scale? Do I want to do something operational or is it small? So I start big and I work down in. So I'm gonna lay it out to you, right? So Japanese invasion of Okinawa in 1945. For everyone out there who might not know, Okinawa was the last big land campaign of World War II. The Germans had already been defeated, right? So the war is only in the Pacific. And in spring of 1945, when this happens, the Allies, the United States and Allies, have driven the Japanese back to the home islands. So the Japanese had fanned out after Pearl Harbor, had captured islands. They were trying to isolate Australia, and we had pushed them back all the way to the home islands. And Okinawa is really considered to be kind of part of Japan.
And the Japanese don't have a fleet at this point, right? Like we're really low on
So
ships.
So then get this now. The United States Navy sent
Mm.
Task Force 58, it might have been called 38 at that time, to lead this invasion. Now, that fleet consisted of this 11 fleet carriers,
Uh-huh.
6 light carriers, 22 escort carriers, 8 fast battleships, 10 old battleships, 15 heavy cruisers, 17 light cruisers, 132 destroyers, 45 destroyer escorts, and over 100 amphibious assault
And
vessels.
a partridge in a pear tree.
I
And
strongly suspect that's more carriers than exist operationally in the world today.
probably, but it gets better because the British didn't want to be left out. So they joined that fleet, bringing 5 additional fleet carriers, 2 more battleships, 7 light cruisers, and 14 destroyers. So overall, this was the most powerful naval force in the history of the world,
Feels like
right?
this is going to be a real one-sided scenario, Mark.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, there's never been a fleet more powerful ever. I mean, it's incredible.
I'd like to play as the Allies.
Okay, Carl, you're good. Designated Japanese. All right, so big scale. There you go. You got this most massive fleet in the world ever.
Okay.
So what do the Japanese have against it? So at this point, their main weapon is the kamikaze.
Mhm.
Okay, so at Okinawa was the first time the Japanese really had an organized use of kamikazes. Right before that, they were kind of testing it out, so they'd send maybe like 12, and the Americans didn't know it was coming, so those 12 would do really good. But now they're like, okay, we're gonna fight, and they had
How in the world were they getting their test results back from the kamikazes?
you send out 12 planes and you sink 2 ships.
Who was coming back to tell them they
Well,
sank ships?
the original one was off of Philippines, and they sent fighters to escort them,
Okay.
including a guy named Nishizawa,
All
who
right.
was the top scoring Japanese naval aide of World War II. He wanted to be a kamikaze, and they're like, no, like you're too good of a fighter pilot.
You've shot down hundreds of planes at this point.
Yeah, so he reported they
some of
sank
those
ships.
Japanese aces had insane kill counts.
Yeah, because they couldn't stop. They just had to fight the whole war. And the Chinese went down in droves. But
yeah.
Okay, so at Okinawa, the Japanese reserved 2,000 kamikaze planes. And they start attacking in what they call the floating chrysanthemum attacks.
I love how Japanese name things. Like we're gonna just absolutely suicide, murder. It is the growing rose of death beauty. It's just wonderful names.
It's insane. I mean, just for the amount of carnage and death, but it's floating chrysanthemum. So that's their main way to defend, but every time you attack, you lose some.
Mm-hmm.
So the attacks, I think they make something like 10 attacks over the course of the campaign, and each attack is less powerful, right? So they cause a lot of damage. They sink a bunch of ships. They kill thousands of American sailors.
Good job.
But one way to think of it is this: they have 2,000 ships.
Mm.
The hit rate, I think, was only like 4 or 5%. So that's only like 80 planes get through.
Yep.
So if each one of those sank a destroyer, the Americans would still have 55 something destroyers left, and none of the other ships would be here. So it's really not going to stop the fleet. But they're doing it. Okay, so that's the Air Forces. The Imperial Navy, it's reduced to a handful of ships that are in Kure Harbor. Basically old World War I battleships, couple cruisers, 2 late war carriers that are basically camouflaged because they have no air groups. And basically all these ships are just anti-aircraft platforms at this point. They have no fuel. And the sad thing, right, is the Nagato, which was the flagship of the Japanese Navy, is actually the ship that Yamamoto was on when he heard Toro, 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 you have surprise, right? So that was the big ship. It's stuck in a harbor. They cut off the back superstructure. They put a coal-burning generator on board so that it could actually shoot its anti-aircraft guns. And according to John Parshall on the History of the Pacific War podcast, it was overrun with rats. And it was just basically a mess.
Yeah, Carl, I want to play the Allies too.
There's loving a challenge, and then there's this.
But there was one capital ship that actually could fight, and they put all the fuel into it. And the day we invaded Okinawa, and they started sending these mass kamikaze attacks, the super battleship Yamato.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think you mean the space battleship Yamato.
Space battleship
I
Yamato.
was just thinking that. I was thinking the only chance the Japanese have is if we make it space battleship Yamato and we send that at the American fleet. That's a game.
The wave motion gun.
Yeah, they got the wave motion gun. They got the anime lasers. That's the only way the Japanese have a chance at this point.
Okay, well there's a scenario. That's more up your alley than space game.
And Godzilla could rise from the waters and help.
That would be good.
I guess my question is, how useful was the Yamato really at this point? Like, wasn't it kind of, battleships weren't the thing, right? I
They were
mean,
Yeah.
not the thing, but here's um, the kamikazes are going out, right? And the Emperor says to the Navy, hey, the Air Forces are kamikazing. What's the Navy gonna do? So what do you do when you're in a meeting and your boss says that? Well, they're like,
I love that war planning, right? Like
yeah,
that encouragement. Like this entire military force is destroying itself. How about you?
yeah. So the Yamato's plan is going to sail from Japan. It's going to sail to Okinawa, attack the invasion fleet, and then beach itself on Okinawa and use its 18-inch naval guns as artillery to support the land troops.
You know,
Good plan.
that's actually a pretty fucking epic plan.
It's an
Would have
epic
been cool
plan.
if it made it, right?
Yes.
So to kind of circle back to the awesome American fleet, on the initial day of the invasion, right? The carrier-borne American aircraft have to fight off hundreds of kamikazes. They also have to support the ground invasion. And then they get a report that the space battleship Yamato is on the way,
Yes.
right?
Operation Beached
So,
Whale.
but get this, they're still able to fight off the kamikazes, support the ground invasion, and send 300 planes to sink the Yamato.
Jeez. They're just sitting on the what decks of the 30 plus escort carriers.
Yeah.
Send those up too.
So it's almost like, okay, here you go. They're smoked.
Mhm.
Um, so they sink. So as we've already talked about, it's pretty much not a balanced situation.
No.
Um, all right. So we know the kamikazes are deadly, but they're not going to stop the invasion.
Yes.
The Navy has already been smoked. They got nothing left.
Mhm.
That leaves the Japanese 32nd Army. They are defending Okinawa.
Okay.
And what they've done is Okinawa is long, right? And unlike all the previous island invasions, when talking Tarawa onward, the Japanese don't defend the beach. So the
Okay.
Marines are coming in. They're all thinking, "Oh, we're going to get smoked. It's going to be awful." Eugene Sledge, who writes with the Old Breed, he was one of those guys. He writes in his memoir like, "I couldn't sleep. It was awful. I thought we were going to get smoked,"
Mhm.
and they land. They don't even get shot at. I think they take something like 10 casualties in the landing.
Now that is pretty wild. Why didn't the Japanese do that, right? Because we all
Yeah,
think of beach landings as like the vulnerable time when the troops are coming
right.
ashore and you can kill a lot of them because they're
yeah,
in the
amphibious
water.
landing is like the most dangerous military operation that exists, as far as I know.
Tied with airborne landings.
Yeah,
Contested airborne
Mhm.
landings.
Yeah.
yeah.
Ask the
So,
VDV about that one.
well, I think that their answer really is that the terrain did not favor defense of the beach,
Okay.
right? And that what they'd proven at Iwo Jima, right, is if you're dug in and you just defend, you can cause heinous casualties, right? Because
Yep. And
Iwo
you can
Jima was
last a
the
long time.
yeah, Iwo Jima was the only battle where the Marines took more casualties than the Japanese, which is amazing, right? So what they do to the south of the island, where the Marines land in the middle of the island, they capture the airfields immediately. Like the
Mhm.
first day, they've captured the airfields. And the Marines, there's two corps. There's a couple of Marine divisions, and then there's three Army divisions, right? So the Marines head north, where there's not actually many Japanese. And the Marines there talk about, oh, it was awesome. We had barbecues, we're hanging out. And, like, seriously, they were like, this was the best. There was one small area, peninsula, they had to root out the Japanese. To the
Well,
south, the
there's a
road,
scenario idea for you. You know, your Filipino
Barbecue.
restaurant is just serving all these, recently landed American Marines, and you got to keep them happy, or they'll get drunk and beat up the place.
That's
there you
right.
go.
That's
Sounds,
right.
sounds like a Euro game.
Yeah, what's that fast food chain simulator? Yeah.
That's right.
All right, so to the south, the island kind of narrows a bit and then fans out, and that part of the island is really defensible. It's kind of a ridge line after ridge line after ridge line. His name's like Kakuzu Ridge is kind of famous.
Mhm.
Cactus Ridge, Hacksaw Ridge. You might have seen that movie, Hacksaw Ridge. And they're just kind of one after another. And the Japanese had spent a long time fortifying them. So
Okay.
there's tunnels, there's overlapping fields of fire, minefields, reverse slope, right, where they have these mortars shooting over the hills as the Americans are trying to get up the front.
So all
So
of Iwo Jima and more. We're just gonna dig in and be a huge pain in the ass and kill as many as we
yes,
can. Okay.
and what's the strategic point, right? The strategic point is cause as many casualties as you can and
Yep.
last as long as you can because you want the Americans to think twice about invading the home island, like Honshu and those
Yeah,
places.
Right.
because these are places Americans have never heard of, right? I
Yeah,
mean, back at the home front, people are wondering, okay, why are we
right,
still fighting these guys? We've destroyed their fleet. Can we just sue for peace at this point and end the war, or do we have to really invade Japan here?
right. And this is what the Japanese are trying to make the point. You don't want to
Mhm.
invade Japan.
Right.
And also, the longer the troops are on the island fighting, the longer the ships have to stay tethered to the island, so the
Mhm.
more kamikazes can hit them. So they basically give up the island. They don't part that they don't think they can defend. They said, "Come down here and fight us."
Mhm.
And so the army goes south, not the Marines, the army. And really, the army kind of wants to prove that they can do it. And so they're fighting in the south. Now, the interesting thing about who's commanding the south, right? In Iwo Jima, there was a guy named Kurobayashi, and he's pretty much looked at as he was a master of defensive terrain. He did an incredible job defending Iwo Jima to the end.
Okay.
Here is a guy named Mitsuri Ushijima, who kind of gets mixed reviews, I guess.
Three
3 stars
stars
on
on
Yelp.
him.
He doesn't get good Yelp
Would not
reviews.
trust with my defense again.
All right. The deal with him, though, so to go back to Kurobayashi, right? Because he's really kind of the model, I think, right? When Kurobayashi lands on Iwo Jima, he looks around. He says, "We're going to do X, Y, and Z."
Mm.
And his chief of staff says, "Yeah, I'm not buying it." And so
Okay.
the next time a transport plane lands on Iwo Jima, Kurobayashi tells his chief of staff, "See ya. Get on that plane, go back to Japan." He kicks him out. Says, "I want a chief of staff who's going to do what I say." And he does, and you see the
Fair, but
results.
sometimes you should accept a little criticism, my man.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to die on this island. I'm going to die my way.
I mean, maybe that chief of staff fucking knew what was up, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to criticize the boss and get sent home now."
Oh, that's a good idea.
Ah.
All right, so uh, Ushijima here in Okinawa, right? He kind of has a devil and an angel on his shoulder.
Two chiefs of staff.
Well, he's got a chief of staff and he's got an operations officer, right? And the thing about Ushijima is he's no Kurobayashi. Like he kind of listens, he waffles. He doesn't tell guys what to do. He's kind of in the middle. And so his chief of staff is a guy named Isamu Cho,
Okay.
who kind of made his name fighting the Chinese. Doesn't really know what it's like to fight the American Army or the Marine Corps in
I,
1945.
I'm sure it's just about the same.
Applicable skill sets, definitely.
Um, and so he's super aggressive,
Okay.
and he's all about we have to fight with honor. We
I
have to
like him.
attack. Give him the one brush of the armored sleeve. He's like super aggressive.
Draw your sword and go forth.
Yeah.
I'm on his
Now,
side.
okay. And he's also he's also
This is
the
a-
second in command.
They'll
That's
never
a-
see it coming.
Hard turn from the I want to play the Allies.
Love it. Well,
Ben found someone he could relate to.
I
That's
do
right.
we just heard oh, it's the most defensible. They're all dug in, and this guy's like attack, and Ben's like, yeah,
Yes!
that's my guy.
Yes.
There's no honor in my defenses.
Let's go.
oh, there's that role playing part that you guys like, right?
There you
That's
go.
why we go through. We start at the
Yeah.
top and come down. You don't know where
Yeah.
you're going to be inspired.
So
We
the
just
scenario
had it.
design is you find a Ben in your group and you assign
Yeah.
them this force.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, then we got to figure out who this next guy is. So Ushijima's operations officer, who's kind of like the third-ish in command, is a guy. Let me find his name up here. Hiromichi Yahara.
I'm sending him home.
The interesting thing about Yumichi Ohara is he survives.
What?
And
He got sent home.
Dishonor!
He got sent home.
Shameful!
he writes a book. You can get his book about this.
Wow.
So, anyways, they are fighting this battle. Early-ish on, Cho insists on a counterattack, which they do. It's a disaster.
Oh.
They keep falling back until April 29th, which is Hirohito's birthday.
Oh boy.
Happy birthday to Hirohito.
We need a present for the Emperor.
So on Hirohito's birthday, all the command staff get together and they have a party. And there's a lot of sake going around.
What did you get for Hirohito?
And as Cho gets more and more drunk, he starts ranting and raving that it's time for a new offensive.
That's right.
The last one went so well.
It went so well.
That they will not see the new one coming.
Right.
No,
Yahara
never.
is totally against it because Yahara, the operations officer, he gets it. He's like, no, what we're doing is working. We're treating the Americans, we're fighting, we just fall back. This is what we need to do for Japan. Cho basically is like, you're kidding me.
Screw that. Cho,
he says that Cho says in his drunken rage, we must strike now, even at the risk of losing our whole army.
Yes.
Better we should die fighting than to slip passively towards sure defeat.
All or nothing. Let's go. Yes.
He did not read the briefing.
He didn't read the briefing. That's the point.
He did not read the briefing. I'll tell you that. This is
my
classic staff officer behavior.
So Ushijima says okay. Crazy, but he says okay. Like, I don't get it. He does.
Well, maybe he had a lot of sake too.
He does, yeah. So the plan, and actually I have a map. I should show the map here.
Yeah, let's see the
I
map.
would love to see a map.
Someone starts singing the Door of the Explorer song. Here's the map. Here's the map.
Oh, hold on a second. So stop sharing. Sorry. Over here. Yeah. So
this is going to be great for everyone listening to this as a podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'll describe it to you guys in the audience.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful aged color. And look, the artistic design choices are impeccable.
You can see. Here we go.
Ooh, eggshell. And look at that watermark.
Let's see Mark Festoso's map.
So if you were looking at the map, anyways, basically you see this is Okinawa. It's narrow. And this blue line is the American front line across the island, which crosses the Maeda escarpment, which is part of what Hacksaw Ridge was about. And if you look on the eastern side here, right, you see there's this one regiment, the 89th Regiment. They were to attack.
I'm a little more concerned about the units that appear to be attacking via the water. Are we doing amphibious assaults here?
Correct.
Counter assaults.
So this is the Japanese amphibious invasion.
Oh my god!
So they saw what you listed earlier, this assembled like Trojan fleet to rival mankind's best efforts, and they thought, I think that the lanes of access through the water are open.
Let's get into some boats.
Let's get in the boats.
How much sake did that man have?
Yeah. So the idea is that this, you see there's 3 regiments in the Japanese Infantry Division.
Okay.
They're going to attack. And essentially each regiment is kind of attacking an individual American division.
Yeah, one for one. Let's pair off.
If you're a war gamer and you do an odds-based game, they're basically making 3 1-3 attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
This is totally insane.
They will not see it coming. Did they know? I mean, they had to have a pretty clear idea of the volume of forces they were facing, right?
The Japanese?
Yeah, well, you can't really hide. The Japanese, I'm sure, have positions up in the mountain. They can see the landings. So they had to have some notion of the size of the force they were trying this against.
Cheapers.
Well, but, Cho...
Sake is worth a division, at least.
And gumption.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Samurai spirit.
So my question, Mark, it looks like they're attacking north, right, Mark?
Yes.
So they're going to be up against the Marines who have thus far not had much resistance.
So actually, what's happened is the army had taken so many losses that they had brought Marines down. So this line was
Okay.
partially Marine, partially
Oh
Army at
wow.
this point,
Okay.
Okay,
and
so
that's
they've really
gonna
been beating up the army, and the army had been taking a bloody nose,
they
doing
had
this so far.
yeah.
Okay.
But for a while, the Army commander didn't want to bring the Marines in. He wanted to get all the glory
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
Army.
Army wants to do it. We have our inter-service rivalry that only gets a few Americans
All right.
killed. It's fine.
So in order to make this 1 to 3 attack successful,
Mhm.
they decide to launch an amphibious attack behind the American lines.
Well, I'm sure it'll be a surprise.
I wanna bring up that this is actually a classic wargamer mistake, not just real life mistake, which is people seem to feel bad doing nothing. And sometimes doing nothing is the right thing, but people just
Right.
want to be doing something. So counterattack.
I am 100% that person. I don't want to sit there and do nothing. I want
Yeah, you
to
guys
attack.
need to have.
Boring.
I've learned from many years at my job that doing nothing is actually the optimal
It's
strategy.
very lucrative, right?
Much of the time.
That's right.
All
Work
right, so
smarter and not harder.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in theory, look at that. Like if the flank was successful, I mean, maybe that could be good, but it seems like that's not a situation that's going to happen because, I mean, don't the Americans just have enough guys to cover essentially any direction of assault? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I
sure,
mean,
but to be fair, as the American commander, I'm not really worried about a Japanese amphibious invasion on my flanks. So I'm not even going to blame the Americans too much if this actually works and takes them by surprise.
Well, but we should remember that this isn't just the American Army and Marines here. The entirety of the British and American Navy, for the most part, is here, and they're not
Yes.
doing anything else. They're going to be
Yes.
shooting at any ships they see.
well, and the fact that the Navy is flying Corsairs off of an airfield on Okinawa itself.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And by the
constant
way,
observation missions.
they also
Yeah.
fly at night with radar.
Oh boy.
So there's nothing. So yeah, so the idea, actually, John Parshall, great historian, right, on that podcast, he says about this, he said, a fifth grader could probably come up with a better plan. But,
Yeah,
I think he's right.
Yeah.
So anyways, let's just talk a little bit about this plan. So
It's insane.
the idea is that this amphibious invasion is going to go off before the main attack. So this is what's going to kick off the offensive because it will hit the rear areas. The
So-
Americans will freak out. And
So we're not even going to start distracting them by attempting to do this simultaneously. We're going to
no,
really hang that amphibious force out to dry.
Well, the one thing that
Yeah.
goes for it is if they were smarter about execution, if they saw that the amphibious landing went poorly, they could call the whole thing off. But I don't see that happening here.
True. Well, it might happen. I genuinely don't know how this plays out.
We will see.
all right. So the task of landing, doing this amphibious attack, goes to the unit labeled the 26th Engineer Shipping Regiment.
Hmm.
So certainly not amphibious warfare specialists.
Amazon Prime specialists.
This is one of those military maneuvers that, if it works, it gets put into the annals of great history as one of the most brilliant, insane, but amazing things that a military or a general has done, right? This
Right.
is like, Caesar at Elysia kind of level stuff. And the fact that I have not heard about this means it didn't go down like that.
Yeah. It's more on the Arnhem side of things than that.
I mean, the Japanese did this exact type of thing when they were coming down the Malaysian Peninsula in 1942 against the British,
Yeah.
when they had air superiority and naval superiority, and it worked great.
Mhm.
The problem is this is 1945, and you're up against Task Force 58. Like, it gets worse. By the way,
It does have
how?
the feeling it has the feeling of the wrong lessons having been learned early and not understood that things are different now.
yeah, or that this guy Cho just didn't keep up with things.
Right.
Or it's just bored. Like Carl said,
Yeah.
it feels bad to do nothing. You're sitting there. I mean, how long had Okinawa been going on at this point, right?
So this this happens in May. So it's like a month and a half.
Okay, so Cho has been dealing with 45 days of bombardments, attacks, like constant grinding down to their forces. The army is making progress against them, I'm sure. It feels like losing very slowly, right? So I am 100% sympathetic to the desire to fuck this shit and go try something.
He thinks he needs a win.
He needs a win.
The win
Well-
doesn't necessarily have to risk your entire formation.
I don't know. I don't think it's that. I think it's honor. He's
Right.
just like, we have to go forward and die with honor. When really the best thing they could do is just die slowly.
But we're also seeing kamikaze attacks go off, right? We're sending
Yeah,
pilots
yeah.
who are going to die just to do damage to the enemy. So this is kind of like a human kamikaze attack.
It's not an isolated incident. They're making counterattacks when defensive positions would be preferable throughout the end of the war, seemingly.
Yeah. Okay, so the 26th Engineer Shipping Regiment sets the sail in barges and indigenous canoes.
Ooh. What does that look like on radar?
But that's not a bad idea, right? Because you're in ships that don't look like invasion ships. At first, it looks like the local village has gone out to fish, and you're like, "Oh, those guys
The
are
entire
so
village."
far."
You like cover yourself with garbage and be like, "We're just a garbage scout. Don't pay attention to us."
Don't
Well,
worry
I was
about
wondering
it.
where they would get boats, but that's they've got maybe a little bit of plausible deniability a mile or two offshore.
All right, so they head out. It's at night. They are certainly seen. Some of them are interdicted by Navy destroyers, but they do end up getting to shore.
Okay,
Unfortunately,
so far so good.
unfortunately,
Don't say that. We had a success.
I was
gotta
kind of-
follow it up.
I was kind of hoping the scenario was going to be destroyers versus canoes. I was like, all right, how many hull points does a canoe have in Fire at Sea?
oh man. Okay, so the main amphibious force lands at this beach on the east side of Okinawa, and they happen to run into the 1st Battalion, 1st Marine Regiment, which just happens to have their LVTA park right where they land. Now, the LVTA are the landing track vehicles that are all mounted with 75 millimeter guns.
Oh no.
And armored.
And armored, and multiple 50 millimeter 30 calibers and everything. So
Okay, the Japanese army has so many anti-tank weapons. I'm sure they brought.
so they're trying to land in their canoes and barges on this beach while these LVTs are smoking them, and they kill over 700 Japanese.
What was the total count for the landing? How many personnel were involved in the landing?
I don't know. I want to say
700.
Like I think it was somewhere up like 800 or 900.
Oh my god!
So
90% casualties.
They're pretty much wiped out.
Oh my
Now,
god!
a little farther up the beach, another group lands. 75 Japanese are killed, but some make it ashore.
Okay.
So
Progress.
there's hope. There's hope.
There's hope.
There's hope.
Don't say it like that.
They make it ashore, and the 1st Marine Recon Company, with a war dog platoon, tracks them down in the bush and finds 65 Japanese, and they kill every single one of them.
Oh, geez, with dogs?
Oh my
I don't know,
god!
they killed the Japanese.
I have to say, if I being mauled to death by a dog is not my
Well, I don't know
favorite way
if
to
the
go.
dogs killed
I'm
them
assuming they like stiffed them out and then they started shooting where they were.
I mean-
Well, I mean, the dogs could have had guns, Matt. You don't
The
know.
dogs could have the guns on their backs.
I mean, I think there's a phenomenal scenario right here, right? Hunting the
There you
Japanese
go.
stragglers
There
that
you go.
landed.
I would
It's-
feel so bad playing that.
It's like a hidden movement game.
That's so rough.
This is
Well,
Scotland
the
Yard.
dogs-
It's like
you know?
it's like playing Aliens versus Predator or Aliens versus like the Aliens universe versus
Yeah.
crew with unarmed crew. And you're just going out to kill everybody.
That still sounds like a pretty fun scenario, right? I'd play
Yeah.
that too.
If
Just
you're the
feels
dogs.
so bad.
All right.
Oh,
And then
That's
after
rough.
those guys are killed, the next day, the Japanese launch the main attack.
Oh, they wait a whole day.
Well,
Okay.
it was the next day, or it was,
They wait at
Well, I
least
guess
eight,
I
9 hours.
I guess the landings are overnight, right? Because they have
right.
no
Right.
chance during the day. So doing that, and then I suppose next day after light they launch.
Well, the Japanese always attack at night, so it was the next night.
Oh
So
my
then my
God!
question is, do they have any idea what happened there? Or they just assume it went
The
great?
Japanese?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
So they're just like, it probably went okay. Let's go.
Of course. Well, the orders that Cho gives, right, are, whatever this 89th Regiment will attack up Highway 5 and wipe out the enemy.
Ah,
Those are like the
I mean, it's
orders. It's
good.
just
yes.
assumed. It's assumed.
I mean, it's really good to order success because then
Yeah.
they have to try and succeed.
Don't plan for
This,
failure. Why
Don't
would
well,
you
plan for
plan for
failure.
failure?
this this is like when I'm coaching baseball and I'm like, hit a home run. Like,
Every time.
there you go. That's leadership.
All right. So, Ben, so now we're going to get to, like, let's try to figure out something. And the first thing I have is like, well, of what we just talked about, like, what jumps out at you? And Ben already picked something, right, Ben?
Yeah, that's that. I'm gonna put my flag in the sand. Of I would love to play a scenario where you are a poor group of Japanese stranglers trying to survive or defend yourself, or just run and hide against a group of Americans with dogs hunting you.
Yeah, yeah. I have to
In the
say, like,
fields.
that's what jumped out at me too. The war dogs
Hmm.
was make something kind of cool.
Yes.
Like, how does that play out? How were they used? It makes me want to investigate, like, how the war dogs were used. I saw one down here that the Historical Marine Reenactor Group
Hmm.
always gives a demonstration at this local tank farm, and they'll bring out the dogs and show what they did. And so, I mean, was kind of jumped out at me, right? I mean, that was kind of interesting.
I had no idea we brought like a whole bunch of dogs to Okinawa to do stuff.
Well, they would kind of go in the tunnels and find
Right.
stuff like that,
Right.
sniff them out.
Hmm.
What do you got, Carl? Anything? Something else?
Well,
Role
no, I mean,
playing?
I like that. I like uh where Ben's going, though. The desperation of that is palpable.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe I don't know. This is probably the direction that I just always tend to go, but I wonder if there's some bigger, like, operational level, like, or at least zoomed out a little way to make the Japanese choices interesting, right? Like, could this attack have been successful, or an attack have been successful with, different options or different stuff there? Could you have could players have, like, I don't know, some kind of cool, like, gridded sector map of Okinawa and try and figure out how to do something? Um, when you first described it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna find a way to make the Yamato a fun scenario, but boy, that didn't work out.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you got something there, Carl, right? Because the Japanese could have tried to land in different parts of the island. And, if you research what, positions the Americans are actually in, I'm sure some of them go better than walking into a bunch of armored vehicles with 75 millimeter guns, right? Like if they all landed, maybe a couple miles, further than that, they might encounter less resistance, be able to get on the ground and get organized and maybe actually cause some havoc.
But
Yeah.
that's almost like a naval game.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like success, no matter what scenario we create out of this, success has to be measured in sort of a relative fashion, right? Like, it's like, well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, all of Okinawa is like that, right? Because your other option is, on the grand strategic scale, is don't make this attack, sit there, get ground down, do what you originally intended to do, and even then, success is a relative thing, right? The Japanese are
Mhm.
going to lose Okinawa.
sure.
There's no sane war game thing outside of an alien invasion to help the Japanese where they win Okinawa and control the island at the end of this.
Yeah.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, so my first thought was something similar to I think what you said, which is like you are given free reign over, you're forced to launch this attack, but you're given free reign
Mhm.
over planning it. So then you can do whatever you want with the capabilities that the Japanese have. But that doesn't honestly seem that interesting to me because it's
Mm,
still so lopsided that there's just nothing for it. But the the actual landing that happened here, if we're sticking to a historical scenario, it sounds like two of them are dead on arrival, and one of them dies very shortly after arrival. So I
yeah.
think you really are left with whatever I'd be curious if there was any kind of reasonable firefight that happened between the Japanese
Yeah.
that survived their landing and these dog-equipped troops, or if they essentially just got smoked in the darkness. But I feel like, yeah, you honestly could do some kind of hidden movement game where you could play around a lot with a system that no other game has, and
Mhm.
just try to see if you can slip through alive, kind of thing. And that those are your stakes. Like, can you? This whole thing is botched. What can you make out of it? Like, can you
Yeah.
evade these dog patrols and survive with whatever force you have? That would
All
be
right.
the only game I think I could find out of this.
Yeah. Yeah. The tunnels and caves and all that stuff raises some interesting ideas. But if you look into it, turns out like the flame tanks and other
Hmm.
methods that the US had developed at this point basically rendered that. So even some kind of like, you know, hidden map game where the Japanese get to like place all their guys, that's not going to work. Like,
No. Yeah.
so
I thought
yeah.
about like Iwo Jima, right? Because it was the anniversary, and I was reading about it again. What I came up with is it's like a cooperative game, like you're all the Marines,
Hmm.
and you have to figure out how to break down this defense, right? And this is different because this is a Japanese attack. I mean, this wasn't even like Saipan where they had this massive 4,000 person, bonsai attack that was successful. These guys they just went over the top and then they just got
Right.
smoked.
Were there any Japanese landings where they made any kind of progress or like took
No,
a house or
no,
anything?
no, no, no.
Just a
So, all
complete
So,
catastrophe there.
right. So
so
that,
I,
go
at
ahead.
its tiniest scale, I feel like, yeah, you could. I don't know how many of these people survived that last landing, but you could take on the
So,
role of a tiny percentage of them and just try to survive.
so let's say, for sake of this podcast, that we're going to go with our 65 survivors versus war dogs.
Yes,
Like
yes, I would
we're going to
absolutely put
zoom
that on
into
the
that
table. Yes,
because
Yeah.
that's your
I
scenario.
feel like it gets to the history,
Hmm.
and it also, from my perspective, gives another interesting element with these war dogs. Like, what is that? How does that work?
Yes.
Does that make it, something? Because war dogs, I think, usually are used for like tunnel kind of thing, but
Hmm.
this wasn't. This was in the open. So,
Well, they used them in Vietnam, right?
yeah, but
So, including in the bush,
yeah,
just for early
Yeah.
alerting, and in Afghanistan and Iraq, same
yeah.
purpose.
Mm.
So I think
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. Carl, you on board with that?
Yeah, I like dogs. Who doesn't love dogs?
Who doesn't love getting mauled by dogs?
All right. So the next thing I have, so we figured out we've been inspired and we kind of narrowed it down to where we think there's an interesting, could be an interesting game, at
Yes.
least from a historical perspective. So what type of game is this now? What I mean by that is like, are we thinking skirmish game? Probably. I mean, there are
Yeah.
65 survivors, so could be on the big side,
I,
but
I, I think it gets down to a skirmish level game. You don't put all 65 models on the table, right? Like I think each Japanese player has like 4 or 5 guys he's controlling, and you get like four-ish Japanese players. So about 20 Japanese figures. But they're using hidden movement, right? Like they're trying to hide, they're trying to escape. Were they from what you know about this, were the Japanese actually just trying to shoot them, or were they just sort of trying to get away and survive? Like, what was the
yeah, I don't know,
circumstance there?
26 engineer shipping regiment. They're
All
all
right,
barge
yeah,
drivers. I mean, I think uh they're probably traumatized, I would think,
Yeah, a bunch of
yeah. I mean,
conscripts.
there's
Yeah.
just not a lot left, right? So they're probably trying to hide and get away, but they've got rifles, right? They had the option to shoot. The problem is,
Yeah, they could fight.
The Americans have dogs and more guys. So if you shoot, you might kill a dog, you might kill a guy, but they'll then probably just gun you down as a group. So it really becomes more about uh, the Japanese trying to escape and evade the situation, right? So they're trying to use hidden
And kill
movement
Americans.
and kill Americans where they can. Um, so they're trying to kill Americans where they can, and then escape and evade to get off and cause havoc elsewhere and avoid fighting this superior
Yeah.
force.
So
And I
my
think
mind
that's the
goes
game.
my mind goes to there's a game that I have not played but have heard a fair bit about called 0200 Hours by Grey Fanal
Yeah.
Games. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's the guy who made Test of Honor. It's like a stealth sort of SAS game for World War II. And so what I imagine from this is that these guys land, however many of them who survived, the Americans are already vaguely alerted to them, but the dog troops probably take a minute to get to where they think they are. So I would play this as small scale as you could get it and have it begin as like you're the Japanese trying to infiltrate and you're slowly building up threat level, and at a certain point the dogs come out and you're just trying to accomplish as much as you can as all of that is happening.
All right.
What's
I
the
was,
name? What's the name of
yeah.
these rules again?
It's
O
called O
200
200
hours.
hours.
Yeah. O 200. I own those, Matt. Have
Ah.
not played them, but they're pretty cool. What struck me is they released a Great Escape set
That's a good
like
use for them.
with it. Yeah, like they have a lot of stuff like that, like Where Eagles Dare, kind of like Fort Navarone type stuff. So yeah, it's for commando stuff. But I was kind of mad on this, but as soon as you said this, it kind of sparked on sparked that this maybe this scenario could actually be fun. What if everybody played as the Japanese?
Mhm.
Okay.
And you took inspiration from video games like Assassin's Creed or any of those stealth Dishonored, and you were trying to defeat these sort of programmed patrols of
Right.
is it Army or Marines who
Army. Oh no,
Army
no, Marines.
who
Okay.
are kind of moving and have sort of, if not predictable paths, like they're the GM is moving them, and you're trying to sort of utilize stealth to like maybe lure these guys, right? Like if we said that you're kind of on the disadvantage in terms of firepower, but
Mhm.
what if you can like lure them to isolate one of those patrols and slaughter them, right? Like that,
Yeah.
and then fade back into the, I like the idea of sort of not having the upper hand, being on the back foot, but having to use that to stealth kill a bunch of guys. I don't know. That could be really
Yeah.
fun.
It's a
I really like that as a concept. That does sound like a lot of fun to play. And as long as you make it suitably hard, right? Like the Americans can easily find you, they can easily kill you if you screw up or if you just have a run of bad luck, as I'm sure plenty of the Japanese did. I think that could be quite a bit of fun. And I really like the idea of doing it as a co-op scenario because the very few war games are like co-op with like a programmed other side, right?
Right,
There's a
right.
couple,
Yeah.
but they're really rare. But I think this is a good use case for one.
And to my
Does
mind, the way this works is that if you did this as a convention game or something, the idea is that you will eventually be overwhelmed. So it's
Yes.
just
Mm.
how much can you do until you've triggered enough alerting that everything comes down on you and you're done.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that.
I think like the dogs are almost like a nuclear weapon. Like when they come for you, it's over. Like, as soon as they get your scent, like they're gonna
Right.
find you.
You got a
Also,
very
maybe-
limited amount of time at that point.
right, and maybe maybe the dogs will find a player,
Yeah.
and so players
Mm.
kind of get taken out one at a time.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you've chosen to split up the 75 or 65
Mhm.
guys, whatever.
And
Yeah.
it's like you get bonus points for being the last Japanese to commit suicide, kind of thing.
Right. You get points for whatever you accomplish and
Do you
living
think that
last, whatever.
the rules 200 hours would fit for this concept,
So,
or would you need something else?
Carl probably knows a lot more about this. I very vaguely know that this is a very small model count game. So it's like 8, 9, 10 on the side, I think. Correct me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong there, Carl.
Yeah, it's around that.
But that's okay. We can zoom in.
Yeah.
I honestly, I would waffle between zooming in or using large elements of this game. Like I think they do sort of programmed how people
Yeah.
react to things, and one
They have
side have their hands
sentries.
tied until
Yeah.
things happen. I would use elements of that, and then maybe fold another game in for the actual like shooting mechanics and stuff, so you could have more models. But you could just as easily just shrink it down. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it could work.
So victory conditions we already talked about, and that is cause as much damage before you're destroyed, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and this is one thing. So one thing you do want to avoid is player elimination in a game. But in this one, once you've eliminated a Japanese player, they can start controlling the American forces. and
Huh.
make
Too
those to
funny.
kill you.
Too funny. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. That's a good idea.
Mhm.
Um, uh, orders of battle. We talked about that, right? It's got to be, each Japanese player gets like a few.
Yeah, I
men.
think I think you give each Japanese player like 3 guys. That's enough to play with, and it's enough that you're not eliminated right away when you lose someone, but it's not a lot of people to lose.
Yeah, I think if you're playing 200 hours and you do that, you could have like a normal 200 hours game. But
Yeah.
again, I'm not so familiar.
Okay. Let me just go through what we have here.
It says, according to the book, I'm just flipping through. It says 20 models on either side.
Yeah, I'm reading their main page. It says 10 to 20 per side. So
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
Kind
That is
of.
Yeah.
perfect.
You're just taking like a third of the reality.
And how are the Marines going to be run? Is
So
there?
they're maybe I'm gonna look to Carl for this. I know that before like alarms get sufficiently triggered, there's a lot of pre-programmed movement from
Yeah.
the side that's being snuck up on.
Yeah, I know there's rules for like sentries where they just move along a set path,
Right.
and so you can kind of predict. The big thing with the game is that every model has a very specific cone that they can see in, and so
Right.
if you're not in that like cone of vision, you can just do whatever you want. But as soon as you enter the cone of vision of a guard, basically like they can spot you and do all this stuff there. So it's very like stealth game, like you're sneaking around behind people and stuff like that.
I like that. I think that'll work.
And
Yeah.
presumably there's going to be some like you would have maybe physical locations or objectives like a fob or something that people are going for supply cache. But
Some kind of
I
command
mean,
post.
or command
Could
posts,
could you
right?
could you have like one were the airfields anywhere near the
No, no,
no? Okay.
no.
I'm trying like what objectives were like around there on the map. That's worth looking into.
Well,
Maybe
earlier Mark mentioned that they landed very close to what a vehicle park.
That's a different
Amphibious
group
or
though.
That's
That's
a
the one that
different
got
group.
annihilated.
They
Okay.
got the vehicles
yeah.
wiped them out.
That's right.
Presumably a lot of the administrative buildings from when the Japanese were
Well, I'm
in
sure there was
ownership of that.
supply dumps and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got to
Yeah.
have dog food for the dogs.
There you
Yeah.
go.
If they were close enough to have the dog troops, they're probably near some kind of command.
Yeah, your objective as the Japanese is to steal their dog food.
Oh my God.
Or like if they had different ones, like different levels of objectives they could go for that are increasingly harder. Like so it's like okay, you guys get 5 EP if you blow up this, I don't know, this fuel dump or something. But like if you can steal like, you know, MacArthur's underwear from his, like that's worth like 100, but
His
you have to sneak
lucky
in.
underwear.
Yeah, is that some kind of like that sort of idea of like escalating risk for escalating
I
reward.
like
Yeah.
that. And then lowest level objective is just survive and get away, right? Like just live through the encounter. But then beyond that, if you can accomplish more, then you get different levels of victory essentially depending on what you can make happen.
I kind of feel like, given the nature of this and their objectives based on their orders, that the way I would do it would be your baseline objectives you just always get points for are just killing Americans,
Mhm.
and that as you get closer and closer to the farther side of the board from where you started off the
Mhm.
beach, that you have better and better objectives. It's kind of mixing what I think Carl just said. You, like slowly could get to like a supply dump or a fuel depot or whatever, but that
Yeah.
no one's making it out of here alive, and that you're basically playing until you're all dead because you're all gonna die. Because that you want to kind of capture that, right? That's what this
That's
is.
true.
Right.
Everybody
That's
dies.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
a kamikaze attack. All right.
No one's making it back to the beach to get back in the canoe.
Yeah,
They're all dying.
that's cowardly.
That's right.
Yeah, well, my thought was escape that situation so you can cause havoc later. But you're right; it was more of a suicidal kamikaze attack, right? So you embrace that, and you're like, go as far as you can until you're dead. I like
Right.
that.
And that'll encourage weird and unusual player behavior,
Yeah, yeah.
right? That you don't normally get in a game. If you know that, like, I've never played a game where it was a suicide mission. Where
But,
I've seen a lot of
Well,
gamers play it like it was a suicide
actually,
mission.
Matt,
true.
if you see me
hold on.
play Napoleonics, those are usually
go charge
suicide
cannons, Carl! Get them!
Here's like the super awesome victory condition that you can get. If you guys can manage to get one rifleman somehow off this crazy part of the board, you get mega bonus points because he becomes a guerrilla fighter and he stays in the jungle till 1975.
Yes.
You have to go get his
one of those
parents to get
guys.
on megaphones and like
That's
tell him
right.
the war's over.
That's a whole different scenario. Go
That's
rescue
right.
the 1975 guy.
Talk your son down using the hostage negotiator rule set.
All right. Well, I think
Amazing.
we got it. So we basically have come up with
Well-
a scenario for 0200 hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
What would we call this scenario?
So,
Mm.
the obvious one is the Dogs of War, Cry Havoc or something. But it says I'm reading here that the Japanese sometimes refer to this battle as Tetsu no Bofu, the Typhoon of Steel.
Of steel?
Yeah, because of all the armored
Kamikazes.
vehicles and the yeah, I guess the
Oh,
kamikazes too.
yeah.
Yeah, but both the land battle is referred to as well. I guess referring to the sheer number of allied armored vehicles assaulting the island.
I
What's the
think
name of the guy who ordered this? Cho? Or
I
the
think
one
they
who
Cho.
call it.
devised it?
Cho.
Cho.
I
Cho.
think it's Tetsuo no dog food.
I'm trying to think of
Dogs
something that will
War.
involve Cho.
Mhm.
I was
But
thinking more like a 3-hour tour. All right, Dogs of War.
Dogs of War is pretty clean.
All right, so unless you got something better to call it Dogs of War.
I don't think it's the most original name, but it's iconic. Let's
Cho.
It
go.
is iconic.
It's
Episode
iconic.
1, Dogs of War. I
I
like it.
really want a
Yeah.
Cho pun now.
I'm trying to get a Cho pun, and I can't.
Mama.
Okay, every player gets 3 to 5 soldiers.
Yep.
And they're trying to cause a certain amount of damage before they're destroyed. As they penetrate the marine lines, they get better objectives.
Can we play this? Do we have figures for this? Does anyone have Japanese?
There's a guy who games with us now who does. Yeah.
Okay, we can make it
gotta
happen.
try this. Yeah.
I think for 4 players at 5 models each, we're within the bounds of what the game recommends.
Yeah.
We gotta
Yeah.
get war dogs. Gotta get some dogs.
Oh yeah.
And then we need to do a little bit of looking at the terrain, maybe, just because I always like to use Google Earth at least.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to create
Like,
something
what was
that
it
feels
like there?
plausible and
All right,
interesting.
guys. All right. Well, I think we did it. This was super fun.
Yep.
If you out there and you want to see this scenario come to life, let us know. See what we can do. It'd be really fun. Bring it to a convention. And if you have at home any crazy military historical situations you want to have us kick around to make a scenario, please let us know. All right.
That's right. We'll
All right.
discuss anything and everything.
Yeah.
That's
All
right.
All right. Now, real quick, Mark, how'd the rest of the attack go? That went well, right?
No, so how it goes, this is a funny story. Funny in a grim kind of way.
Oh.
So the attack goes in and it gets totally smoked.
Oh.
When it's over, Ushijima says to the staff, "From now on, I will only listen to Yahara."
This Cho guy had his chance.
Cho spends the rest of the battle in his office bunker, his bunker office, calling out to Yahara, "Do I have orders to commit suicide yet?"
Oh my
You're gonna let me do it?
See, he was bored and really wanted to just do something.
Yeah. He's so honorable that he won't even commit seppuku until he's told.
Yes.
Yikes.
Incredible.
Amazing.
What a guy.
They're not
Oh my
letting me
God.
do it.
And I think it's Ushijima, and this is kind of whatever it is, but he tells everyone, "Oh no, it's Saipan." Saipan. At the Battle of Saipan, right? There's this massive 4,000 person kamikaze attack at the end, Banzai, of which a large percentage are civilians that are given bamboo spears.
That's right. I did hear about
And
that.
the commanding officer tells them all, "You must kill 10 Americans before you die."
Oh, good.
And then he commits suicide and doesn't kill one American.
Come on, lead by example, my man.
And you will have
At
my
least
permission to
try.
die.
Oh man.
When the Americans are in ashes, you will have my permission to die.
That's crazy. Is there a button for this, Mark, or we kind of closed
This
it?
is it. That just
Okay.
If you're listening, send us your ideas. If you like this, let us know. We'll do more. It's great. Thanks for being members of Mark's Game Room. We'll see you next time.
Happy
That's
gaming.
everybody.
crazy stuff. Thank you.